All right. I think we are live, hopefully. Otherwise, I'm just talking to myself, which is perfectly fine, really. Hello, everyone. I'm Christian White. I'm an author. I'll be talking to you about, all my books. I've got a little stack of them here, but particularly Wild Place, which is my new one. I'll be here for a half hour. If you want to ask me any questions, please ask me questions, because if you don't, I'll be forced just to ramble. Maybe I'll run out of chat. Maybe I'll just start talking about my favorite episodes of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. But yeah, please ask questions, and let me know. There's already some people over here. Hey, Emily, Jane, Narelle. So good to see you all. So let's jump in. Well, before I start, I'll give a little introduction and tell you a little bit about Wild Place. But before I do, I'll give you some ideas. If you can't think of a question, you could give me a book recommendation, because I'm definitely out of after those at the minute. But you can also ask me about these two books, Noah Child, Wife and the Widow, which are my first ones. I also co-created the Netflix show Clickbait, so you can ask me questions about that. I'll get ahead of one. Yes, Adrian Grenier is that handsome in real life. It's sickening. So yeah, don't bother asking me that. But yeah, let me tell you a little bit about. There's already some questions on there, which is fantastic, because there's always a panic in this situation that there's going to be no questions. So I'm glad. I already see a couple of questions, Narelle. I'll probably get to yours next. But first, let me tell you a little bit about my new book, Wild Place. Hopefully Martin Hughes, my publisher, is watching, because he thinks I'm terrible at pitching this book, which I think is a lie. Basically, I think I'm fantastic, and you're about to find out for yourself. Wild Place is about a teenage girl who goes missing from this idyllic, closely knit suburb on the Mornington Peninsula, which is where I'm from, in the summer of 1989. Actually, more specifically, she goes missing in that very sort of strange period between Christmas and New Year's. You know, that really weird. In the book, I describe it as pointless as a perineum, because that's sort of what it is. It's just this: Christmas is done. You're done with your family. You're just waiting for New Year's. So it's sort of set between that time. This girl goes missing, and Tom, a local school teacher, he's on school holiday, so he has too much time on his hands, basically, and he decides to investigate this missing person. And he comes, I'll dance around spoilers. There'll be no spoilers here. He comes up with what he thinks is what happened, but the police won't listen. So he enlists the help of the local neighborhood watch group, who are all insane, and Tracy, the missing girl's father, Owen, and takes matters into his own hands. I guess I'll say. Anything else would be spoilers. And it's set in 1989 for a couple of reasons. Hello, I will get to all these questions. I'm already rambling. Is there any taxidermy in Wild Place? Yes, I'm going to get to all that. There's not. But it's set in the height of satanic panic, which was this wave of mass hysteria that swept the entire world, Western countries, America in particular, but Australia as well. And it was where suddenly all these people, genuine people, these parents were afraid that their kids were getting brainwashed by heavy metal records, and there were these roaming satanic cults. And I wanted to write about satanic panic for a very long time, but I never could really find an angle, I suppose. Like, it always seemed really, really silly to me. Hi, Carolyn Manners. Nice to say hello. It really seems really silly to me. So I kind of just shelved it. I put it aside. And then a few years ago, I started to take notice of QAnon. And then the pandemic hit, and there were all these conspiracy theories about where the virus came from, and Bill Gates is tracking the vaccine, tracking us through the vaccine, all of this crazy stuff. So I suddenly started to started to think about it again, because it was clear to me that was a natural progression, a natural evolution of satanic panic. So suddenly I started to I don't know, kind of flirt with the idea of writing something about it, because the people who were sort of spreading these or sharing these conspiracy theories weren't crackpots. I think everyone has a story about a friend or a family member who is sort of bought into this. And I started to think, I don't know, it kind of because they were people I knew, it sort of forced me to empathize and forced me to try to figure out why, why when people are, I guess, outraged and scared, why do their standards of evidence drop? And why is it easier to believe crazy things? And then suddenly I had an in for a satanic panic. So that was that's it. Now let me have a look at all these. Martin Hughes is there. He says, Martin Hughes, my publisher, has a very, very important pressing question that you'll all be really anxious to hear. It's who cut your hair? My wife did. This is my lockdown haircut. I've always wanted to shave my head. Martin has seen it before, full disclosure, and he isn't a fan. He isn't a fan. I don't know why. I think that maybe people, well, actually, if you like it, do a comment. If you don't like it, just don't tell me, because my self-esteem wouldn't be able to take it. Sue Kramer, I'm so sorry if I mispronounced it. Hi, Christian. I am loving your new book. Thank you so much. I'm so glad. It's so, when you put anything new into the world, it is terrifying. It makes you nauseous because you don't actually know if it is really good. It's had such a small pool. For me, my wife has read it, and my publisher and the editor and a couple of people at the publishers, but you just don't know until it goes out into the world. So I'm very happy you're enjoying that. Sue Ebert, yeah, you like the other book? Good, yeah, get on it. A lot of people are saying they're looking forward to it. Excellent. Alice Bellchambers, I'm so sorry if I'm butchering people's names. I'll apologize in advance. She's recommended The Deep by Kyle Perry. I've read it. I love it. It's fantastic. All right. Patricia Devine, do you have a strict writing regime? Fairly strict, Patricia. Yeah, I guess early on when I went full-time writing for the first time, I had a really strict regime, which was, this is your job now. This is your life. You have to be at your desk between 9 to 5, and you have to really, really make the most of it. But I found very quickly that I can't write for a full day. I get probably 2 or 3 really good hours, which are usually in the morning. Usually I'll get up really early, work on something for a few hours, and then I will if I have a deadline looming, then I'll work all day and sometimes into the night. But generally, by about midday, 1 o'clock, I'm pretty beat. And this will sound like a cop out. When you do things like go and take a shower and go for a walk and go to the beach, it doesn't sound like it, but you are sort of still working. So I do weirdly count that. So I go to the beach every afternoon and I count that as my writing, which you'll probably think is a cheat, which it probably is. All right, let's look at hi Reggie, Patricia again. I've enjoyed your books, thank you. Helen Simic is looking forward to it, thank you. Now Julie Foster has a question. Is there any taxidermy in Wild Place, and have you got any in your house? So no and yes, there is absolutely zero taxidermy in Wild Place. I do have some taxidermy in my house. I'm going to get up and get it now. I'm so glad I made this last minute decision, and I didn't know why, that I was going to change out of my pajama pants and back into jeans just in case I had to leave. So I'm so glad, Julie, I'm so glad I made that decision. Now stay there a second. I just have to get it. All right, here it is. This is a dead fox that's up on just lives up on our bookshelf, which is I think that when taxidermy is done well, it can be really beautiful. It's this death imitating life thing. But when it's done dodgy, like, I don't know if you can see, look at that. That's less beautiful, isn't it? It's going bald here. The tail fell off. It did have a tail, but the tail fell off, which I won't show you. I'm just going to put this down now because it creeps me out touching it, to be honest. All right, let's move on. Lots of nice people. Caroline Lee, Meredith, hello everyone. Let me see. Now, Narelle Murphy, I remember you said your wife helped you with the twist in your last book. Did she help you with this one? Yes, absolutely, she did, Narelle. I have what is becoming my, I didn't plan it this way, but I guess my process is that I will spend a very, very long time plotting my books and I will come up with the perfect plan. And then I'll start writing it and realize that the plan wasn't perfect and there's things that don't work. Then I will go to my wife and she will just fix it for me. And then I'll go to my publisher and he'll fix it for me. So really, I don't actually do a lot. It's an illusion, really. So yeah, I know I seriously owe all the best twists of my career. Some's come up with my wife. So yeah, I pray we never get divorced because she will have rights to take me for everything. Patricia Devine, have you started work on your next book? Absolutely not. But I do have a couple of thoughts. I have a thought about setting and things like that. But it's way too early to tell you. Although I kind of like the idea of. No, I'm just going to tell you. There's often I'll either think in themes or in settings or with Wild Place. It was very much satanic panic. I really wanted to explore that, and so I'll have these kind of vague abstract ideas, but I won't really know what the story is yet. But I do want to write a story set in America. There's a place called the National Radio Quiet Zone, which is this place in West Virginia where they've got this huge observatory, and they do space research. The rumors are they do military research, but who knows? But anyway, this telescope is so powerful and so sensitive that for this certain radius around it, they can't have any electromagnetic activity. So no mobile phones, no Wi-Fi, no Bluetooth, no garage clickers. It's that sensitive. There's actually a van that drives around that monitors it, and you can get fined for it. And it's also become this sort of haven for people who claim. I say claim because it's actually considered a psychological disorder. That people who claim that they have electromagnetic sensitivity, so they're sensitive to Wi-Fi signals. It makes them nauseous and it gives them migraines and things like this. So it's become home for this community because that's the only place, one of the few places on the planet without these signals, and it's somewhere where that they can feel at home and feel safe. So I would like to kind of set something there. I have no idea what it would be yet. Feel free to steal that idea, because if someone else sets something there, it just means I don't have to do it. But yeah, maybe that's I haven't actually started writing, but I will. Tina Kavanagh said bad taxidermy is the best. It absolutely is. We have a book somewhere that I think it's called Bad Taxidermy. Ken Ken Kirk has what I would say is a very constructive comment, and he said your haircut will look good when it's finished. So thanks for that. Thanks for that, Ken. Roshina finished reading Wild Place last night. Still reeling from that twist. Thank you very much, Roshina Banerjee. I'm so sorry. I'm going to still attempt everyone's name, but I'm sorry. I'll butcher them all. What else do we got? Jane Tara has a good question. I loved Wild Place, and it, of course, has a big twist, which for people who, no spoilers, but yeah, for people who haven't read it, there is a big twist in this one too. Do you feel pressure to deliver one now? Yeah, I think I do. I think that I think it's something people come to expect, and they're tricky things to pull off, twists, because you need to have enough breadcrumbs there that it doesn't come completely out of left field. It needs to. I think a good twist for me is is when I feel annoyed that I didn't get it. So it doesn't come so out of left field that you could never have guessed it, but it's all the clues are there. And yeah, this one, it definitely has that. And usually how it works is you find that twist and you build it in, and then you go back and make it look like you had planned that the entire time. I think the biggest one, yeah, I mean, this has, well, I won't talk about it, it's spoilers, but Wife and the Widow, for example, had a huge twist. And one of the few pieces of advice I got from our American publisher was, she said, people won't get that twist, so you can load it up with clues. So it's all about that balance. It's all about making sure there's enough there, but not too much. Let me get back to these comments. I have a tendency to just ramble on. Okay, let's see. All right, Maxine just started reading Wild Place. Loved your previous books also. Thank you very much, Maxine. Lynn Kelly, the same. Sandra Scully. Sandra Scully, that's an amazing name, by the way. Sandra Scully says, I was gobsmacked at the twist in The Wife and the Widow. Thank you. Melissa Watson, what inspired you for this storyline? Well, Melissa, like I mentioned, Satanic Panic was a big inspiration, but also I had for a million years. So I grew up on the Mornington Peninsula, and then I moved to the city for a million years, and then we moved to the Bellarine Peninsula, and then it came time for my wife and I to buy a house, and we did that thing that I sort of swore I'd never do, which is move back to my hometown, and we bought a house on the Mornington Peninsula. And so a lot of it was sort of inspired by that. I had been back to visit, but I hadn't lived here for so long. So I sort of found that everywhere I went, the two things were happening. There were these nostalgia bombs going off, but there was also this sort of sadness because everything had changed so much. And I think that I really wanted to kind of explore that nostalgia and go back to that time in the 80s and really draw on my own childhood, I guess. So yeah, that was a big part of the inspiration. Narelle Murphy, I think you describe your settings so well. Thank you. Do you visit those types of places to help get immersed in them? I'd love to read one written in the outback. Yeah, well, I have. What I'm discovering about myself is that I actually have a terrible imagination where setting is concerned, because, like I said, I was on the Bellarine Peninsula when I wrote Wife and the Widow, and it's set on the Bellarine Peninsula. And now I was on the Mornington Peninsula when I wrote Wild Place, and it's set on the Mornington Peninsula. I was saying to someone else recently that my next book might just be, if it's not in the radio quiet zone, it'll just be in this house, because that's how creative I am with settings. I would love to write something set in the outback. I think that there are some amazing sort of outback thrillers. The problem is for me is that I've never been to the outback, and I love reading things, those books set in the, Jane Harper's amazing at it, Chris Hammer, but that's not necessarily the Australia I grew up in. I grew up in the suburbs, and that's sort of my jam. But maybe one day, maybe I'll move. Maybe this time next year I would have moved to the outback. I doubt it. I hate the heat, but maybe, you never know. Martin Hughes again. Martin, he says, I've changed my mind about your haircut. I think it's fantastic, and I think you look really handsome tonight. Thank you, Martin. That's lovely. What Martin actually said was, which character in Wild Place is the most like you? It's funny because this is the first book I've written with male protagonists. The first two books had female protagonists, and part of writing a male this time was, there were sort of two things. Part of it was I wanted to break out. I want to give people what they expect from one of my books, but I also want to surprise them as well. I didn't want to get kind of, caught up just writing female characters. That was part of the reason. But another part is, again, it'll be difficult to talk about this without spoilers, but Tom, the main character in Wild Place, his journey is a very male, masculine journey. So it kind of had to be a male, and I found myself drawing on my own experiences more than ever, more than ever in any of the previous books. There are three male characters, which are most like me. So there's Kieran, who is a teenager, a young teenager, and he's just entered puberty, and he's still really innocent, and he's into things like war, and that was me as a kid. I had this really weird obsession with the army. I'd wear fatigues. I wore army fatigues once to school. My mum and dad let me, for some reason. I don't know why they let me do that, but I wore it, and I had the whole get up and the hat and everything. So that was a lot. That was sort of the stage I was at then, was where I was, where Kieran is in the book. And then there's another character, Sean, who is a teenager, but a bit older. He's 18, and he dresses in black, and he's into dark music, and he's moody and brooding, and he's that sort of typical gothy teenager. And that was me as well. That was me in the next stage. So it's almost like these parts represent moments in my life. And then Tom, the main character, is sort of a lot like me, really. He's a little older. He's 44 or something, I think. I might be wrong about that. I should know. I'm 40, but I'm at that sort of I don't know. I'm sort of almost technically middle aged, so I think I drew a lot from that as well. Also, he has Tourette's, and I have Tourette's, so that was a little kind of little extra thing. And actually, it was Martin. I'm talking about Martin a lot tonight, and I would anyway, even if you weren't here, Martin. It was his idea to give Tom that character trait, give him Tourette's, give him twitches, because Martin has twitches as well. And we sort of bonded over it, and he has this. I won't tell it, but if you ever meet him, ask him to tell you the story, the turtle story. He has this tragic, heartbreaking story about him as a kid, where his friends compared him to a turtle because of his twitches are turtle-like. So we kind of bonded over that, and it was his idea to give him that trait, and it sort of worked perfectly because. Tourette's is often stress related. So the more stressed you are, you kind of twitch more. When you have alcohol, for me, it basically goes away. So I've had a little glass of wine, but it kind of escalates with your stress levels, which is perfect for a character going through an incredibly tense situation over a short amount of time, because it's going to start getting worse and he's going to be twitching. That was my long answer to Martin's question, which is, which character in Wild Places is most like you? Maybe I answered it. Who knows? Amelia Mountain loved your A Day in the Life of. Thank you. Is it harder or easier to write during lockdown? Did you find it affected your writing? Or firstly, thank you for. I'm glad you enjoyed the day in the life. I did a little video, which was a tour of my office. The Fox features in that as well, and it was a ridiculous little thing that all I thought about was, oh, what can I do that's funny? I didn't think what would sell books. What are people going to want to see? What are people interested? All I thought was, oh, how can I be funny? So I'm glad you enjoyed it. Where my priorities are. And is it harder or easy to write during lockdown? It is. I think early on it was easier because it was almost the pandemic has been crazy, and the death is awful, and the people losing jobs is horrible. But there was also almost a novelty to it early on for me, where it wasn't that different from my normal life. Being shut down, it was kind of fun. It was sort of a writer's dream. So early on it was good, but then it went on and on and on. And the Mornington Peninsula is part of Metro Melbourne. So we were locked down. We've got the record. We're the city that's had the longest lockdown in the entire world, or something like that. So it got annoying. Did it find you affected your writing at all? No, it didn't affect. I don't think it affected my writing. Sorry, these are all from Emily. So thank you. It didn't affect my writing at all, but I think it affected this. This is the first time I'm bringing a book out in pandemic times, and it's really, really weird. It's a lot of a lot of Zoom, a lot of web stuff, which on one hand is really cool because you don't have to leave your house. Jeans are optional. You can stay in your pajamas. Like I said, I'm glad I changed because I had to get up. It is really nice, but at the same time, it doesn't quite feel real. It almost feels like this is just a competition I've won, and you're all bots, and this isn't really happening because I'm not able to go and actually see people in real life. So I do miss that part of it. I really, really want to get out and see people. All right, let me see. Dawn Baxter. There's some people with some cool names in here. I might steal some of these names for characters. Have just discovered your books and look forward to reading them. Thank you, Dawn. I hope you enjoy them. Helen Simic. Yeah, parents thought some LPs backwards had satanic chants, and that's true. That's a little bit. There's a lot of 80s metal, heavy metal in the book. So if you have an interest in that, I think you'll like it. Kim Cahill, when is Wild Place released? Came out last week. So go and pick yourself up a copy. Sorry, I just lost my place. Jenny Dowell, is it easy to set a novel in the 1980s than now? Pre-mobile phones, easy access to computers, etc. Absolutely, Jenny. It's the best. As a thriller writer, you're always finding ways to get phones away from people, and it gets a bit, you could only do the no reception thing so much before it gets very tired. I think that's what drew me to the radio quiet zone that I was mentioning before. I think it's one of the reasons I want to set something there, because you don't have to worry about mobile phones. And this was exactly that. It was this beautiful set in the 80s. You didn't have to worry about it, at all. It was brilliant, easy. A cheat, really. I'm really into cheating. Viola, hello. We used to interact at actual events, but this is good too. So many great characters in Wild Place. We have to talk about Lydia. How much fun was it creating the queen of the Neighborhood Watch group? The Neighborhood Watch characters were the funnest scenes to write. So Lydia is a character, and she's the head of the Neighborhood Watch, and she'll just take any tiny, insignificant, trivial thing and make it a big deal. So when this girl goes missing, it's just the most exciting thing ever. And then all the other characters in the Neighborhood Watch, they have various degrees of enthusiasm. There's this guy, Bill, who I really like, who's just more concerned about getting people to his New Year's Eve party. And those scenes were really, really fun. And actually, after the manuscript was finished, we sort of brainstormed ways to get them involved a bit more. So there's there's two Neighborhood Watch scenes, and then there's a big New Year's Eve party where you meet the characters. And then we wrote in, we sort of came up with this fun way, this creative way to, I won't say what it is, but this creative way to kind of revisit all of the characters individually as well. So that was incredibly fun. I could have written a whole book about that Neighborhood Watch. In fact, the original title of the book was going to be Neighborhood Watch, and it was going to focus more on the Neighborhood Watch, and it kind of drifted away from that. And Wild Place is an actual place in the book. It's this place this sort of thick, dense community forest all the houses on Keel Street, which is where it's set, they back onto this forest. So, and locals call it Wild Place. So it was kind of a better title, the Neighborhood Watch, but should show how much I loved it. Christine Wilson, thanks for your presentation. Real human watching. Thank you for saying that. Although, isn't that what a robot would say? But I'll trust you, Christine. Mandy read it and love it. Now recommend it happily to my bookshop customers. Thank you so much, Mandy. Julie Ascari asks, speaking of events, when do you think you might be doing a face-to-face book signing? I do not know, Julie, but hopefully, for the love of God, it will be soon, because I need some interaction. I went and did a bunch of signings, in a small boardroom at a firm press, just signing books, and there was no one there, and it was good, but it was depressing. I love interacting with people, and yeah, hopefully soon. Watch this space. It is 8:30. All of a sudden, that happened very quickly. If I didn't get to any questions, I apologize. Go to christian-white.com and I've got my contact details there. If you have any questions that I haven't answered, email it to me there. I will take a little bit of time to get back to you, but I will get back to you. But yeah, God, that went so quickly. Thank you so much, everyone, for being there, being here, being there, and go buy the book, spread the word, and I hope everyone's happy and getting out. And yeah, so good to see everyone. And goodbye. That felt very fast. Goodbye. Have a good night.